Hello and welcome back to another episode of LMScast. My name is Chris Badgett and I've got a special guest today, Adam Silver. He's from Kitchen Sink WP and Concierge WP. He's a WordPress guy. He's a course builder guy. He's a community guy. He's a podcaster. We're going to get into all of that and kind of learn from Adam about his journey, what's working, what's not working. And really, I wanted to bring Adam on the show because he is such a strong member of the WordPress community, and he's great at building community, nurturing community, which is such a sometimes overlooked part of creating an online course or a membership site or some kind of tribe or getting involved in a tribe that already exists. It's not just about creating a product and launching it and not even thinking about the community piece at all, or just focusing on building the email list. There's so much more to it than that. And that's one of the key things I wanted to discuss with Adam. But first, Adam, thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Hey, Chris. That's wow. I feel like I have, with all that description, I have split personalities. It's awesome.
Well, yeah, we'll get into that. Thanks. Well, thanks for coming. For people who haven't heard about you yet, if somebody comes up to you at a party and they say, "Who are you and what'd you do?" What's your elevator pitch, or what's your story these days?
Say, hi, I'm Adam Silver, but I'm not the Adam Silver from the NBA because that's the most famous Adam Silver. But I am a WordPress educator and trainer, and I run a small boutique agency here in Southern California. That's how I word it. It took me a while to figure that out, by the way. It took me about 9 months to figure those words. WordPress educator and trainer, and I run a small boutique web agency.
Yeah, that's awesome. I get that and appreciate that. When you do a lot of things and have a lot of interests and help people in a lot of different ways, it's really hard to come up with an elevator pitch or whatever.
Yeah, otherwise, I can explain what I do. I do all these 10 things within that, and people lose interest. And it's not personal, just like it's too much to take in. So if you keep it short and concise, then people want to know exactly what that means in the education, training, or the agency. Then they can ask that question, and I can peel back the layer.
That's awesome. Well, let's get into your story a little bit in terms of community. How did you get involved with WordPress? And tell us about that journey into doing what you do today, which is you put on a WordCamp, you have meetups, you go to conferences, WordPress conferences, events. I just saw you at Pressnomics in Arizona. Yep. What was your story? Like, how did you first find that community, and how did you become so involved with it?
So I got involved with WordPress 2009, late 2009, early 2010. It's hard for me to remember exactly, but that's pretty much, I'm pretty sure that's right. I came into WordPress as a photographer. I was shooting corporate trade show, babies and bellies. I started with babies and bellies as a photographer, went to headshots and weddings, and then more corporate. And this was all based in Southern California, and then I moved to Colorado, then I came back for a different job. So I kind of shut all that down to do some professional work for a company, and then I got laid off 9 months later. Based on that, I needed to build a new website, and I built it in WordPress. I messed around with Joomla for about a week back in Colorado for a company I was doing some tech work for. And then when I came back to California, I got laid off. I found WordPress. Didn't know anything about the community, had no idea. And built the site, launched a new photography website because the old photography website was in Flash. It's embarrassing to say, but it's the truth. It had the swooshes, those color lines going through, like the header. I bought it, I think, at Template Monster, and that was dead. That was old. So I found WordPress and built it in nothing, no business. The website's not the end all. It's just a piece of the puzzle for anything, right? And then as I was looking for more photography work, and I got some, I met some other parents who were kids, and they asked me for help. So I started helping people basic 1, 2, 3 page websites in WordPress. And this was 2011. Things were still clunky. I still didn't really know. I'm not a pure developer, not a pure designer. Right? I can implement things. And then I reached out. I guess I heard more about WordPress in the community based on a podcast. My buddy Dustin has one. Dustin Hartzler, he's a good friend. And because I went to iTunes and I typed in WordPress podcast, and I found a couple. Some already gone and dead, and then his was most popular. Reached out, we became friends. I spent the night at his house. He lives in Ohio, works for Automatic now. And then slowly but surely, I attended a WordCamp, and I'm like, oh, I want to be part of this group. And it's just a matter of just slow baby steps and building up building friendships is really what it came down to, and helping people. And it was amazing to me. It really was amazing, Chris, that I attended WordCamp Orange County 2011 or 12, and everybody was just really nice, you know. And it was shocking to me in a sense. I just didn't see it coming. And like, this is awesome. These are my people. So that's kind of the short version. And then the rest is history. I just put in the time and built friendships. I mean, and then you and I met. I mean, who would have thunk it? We met 2 years ago at Cabo Press, right? So, and then here we are 2 years later, I'm on your show, you know,
Right.
And I've had one of your, you know, one of your old business partners was on my show. It just takes, it's an amazing community. So, I've been a great proponent of it, and I started a meetup in Southern Cal, one of the meetups here. I led WordCamp LA last year, and I'm the lead organizer this year as well. So that's the short version.
Well, let's look at that a little bit in terms of the meetup. For those of you that don't know, meetup.com is a website that just facilitates creating in-person gatherings around a particular topic. In the WordPress community, meetups are they're a pretty popular way for people to get together on like a monthly basis or something like that. But what did you start the meetup?
So there are in Southern California about 10 in the general area. The one I used to go to was like downtown or in the west side, and I lived down by the beach. It was kind of hard to get to. I got to it. It wasn't a big deal. I have 3 young children, not that young anymore. So my wife was home, so I could go at night and do these things. But it got problematic as far as scheduling. So there wasn't one in my area. So I reached out to the other organizer, Natalie. I said, hey, do you mind if I start one like in my area? She didn't care. I just didn't want to step on toes. So I started one. And that was 3.5 years ago. We're up to about 350 people in, quote, meetup. 30 to 40 are active. So it's just a matter of bringing people together, doing a presentation once a month, being consistent. You know, I remember trying to schedule it and asking the group, like, when do you want to have it? Where do you want to have it? And then someone told me, Adam, it's your meetup. You pick what works for you. And people will show up or they won't. So my meetup is a third Thursday of each month. I have it at a nonprofit building where my wife used to work, and you know, and people show up, and I feed people. So that's the key. You know, we have a pretty good spread every meetup. Well, my meetup, ironically, is the day we're recording this. It's tomorrow, but obviously this will be out way after the fact. But the third Thursday of the month, and we're doing burrito bar tomorrow night.
That's awesome. So what do people get out just in general if somebody has a course topic or learning platform topic and they're thinking about starting a local meetup, which is a great idea to get out from behind the computer and engage with real people around the common interest? That's like philosophically how it works, and you're talking about like what you do to make it successful and all that, but like what do the people get? What do you get out of it as a leader, and what does the people get out of it? Like, what are the main benefits?
So I think some people come to it for different reasons. And Meetup's basic rules are you have to meet in person. That's kind of like their mantra. You have to, if you want to go bird watching or do photography or go surfing, it's do something outside of your home or behind a computer. WordPress, and you can charge for meetups. A lot of groups do. They charge for events because sometimes they accept extra costs. And the cost to even run the meetup, you know, it's $160 a year. No big deal, technically. I think people come into Meetup, into WordPress, either needing help or wanting to give help or looking to hire somebody. So there's a couple different purposes. And some people you're unaware. You can be surprised. I've had people come to my Meetup who have been very forward if they want to sponsor the Meetup or they want to be on my podcast. They're looking for a stage. They're looking for access to my audience. And my audience is the meetup that I run or my podcast listeners, right? And I'm very protective of that. I'm not going to shill and take your money or sponsorship money just because. That's not how I play this game. It's not a game, but that's not how I run my life. I want to be authentic. I want to offer value in everything that I do. So I told people no many times. It won't take your sponsorship money unless you keep showing up, unless you help us, offer value, you know, contribute in some capacity. So I think people's intentions are varied. You know, my intention, my purpose is I like to share and teach and speak. Simple. Right. And nobody else down here is going to do it. So it's me, you know. I think that answers your question. Yeah,
it definitely does. Yeah, I encourage people, if they haven't attended a meetup or they're thinking about starting one, it is a good idea. I'm actually in the process right now of starting a meetup in my area where I live on the coast of Maine. It's called Midcoast Maine. It's a WordPress meetup, but it's also for people specifically. I'm not just trying to do a WordPress meetup. It's also for educators and people who are trying to use technology in education and entrepreneurship and that kind of thing. So I'm trying to create a meetup that surrounds the issues that I'm really passionate about.
So you could actually, people don't realize this, you could actually have 3 groups within the same payment, by the way. You can have Midcoast Maine and then have one for WordPress, one for educators, one for podcasting if you want. You can break them up into 3 within the one payment. So people don't realize that. So I could do another one under my one payment.
Oh, that's good to know.
It's a little, yeah, so people don't know this. So I keep thinking about doing one for podcasting in the area under my main meetup, under that brand. So.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah.
This is FYI.
Thank you. Well, let's talk a little bit about.
I'm bringing value.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about conferences. And you're a pro at getting out of the building, which a lot of people struggle with. How do you decide? Like, I've met you at a WordPress mastermind event, a WordPress business event. My business partner Thomas works with you on a WordPress WordCamp event. Like, how do you decide what to attend and lead? Like, how do you choose? Because sometimes there's a lot of choices. So how do you decide?
So for me, I'm in a unique position that, a couple of years ago, my wife and I made the conscious decision that I would attend, I'll keep the show clean, a handful of WordCamps, a bucket load, we'll say it that way. And purpose, and with the primary purpose of me to get it out, to meet more people, to network. I had a day job, and I've been sharing this journey also on my other podcast, Kitchen Sink, and I had a day job for 3.5 years, and it provided for us. It wasn't a great situation. I did social media marketing for a company. It was fine. But while I did that, I taught a class in person. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I spoke at camps, et cetera, and I did stuff. And I ran the meetup, and I really want to do more of that. I don't mind the social media, the job, but it was just the job. It wasn't really, and it wasn't just the job. It was the company I worked for. I wasn't really enthused with at the end of the day. So we picked camps that made sense to go to, where if I could travel inexpensively enough, out of pocket. And I've talked to Chris Lema about this because he was on my show way back. And sometimes there's people discussing like, oh, there's that WordPress circuit. There's a speaker circuit. Well, yeah, there is a speaker circuit in any industry for one. But for 2, in the WordPress space, we're all out of pocket. No one's getting paid to speak. So, and I remember looking at Chris that way back. I mean, I didn't really give it much thought. I just overheard someone talking about it in line at a conference, like, oh, Chris is here, and he's in the circuit, with other people. And I'm like thinking to myself, so I asked him about it. He's like, yeah, I'm sure. I speak. I go around. But we're all out of pocket. We all pay our own way. And so I picked things I could, I would apply to speak. If I got accepted based on the camp, I would fly out and put myself up, or I'd stay with community members. That's also the greatest thing about WordPress community. You meet friends. I've traveled with people that I've met in person at a WordCamp. I went to I went to Costa Rica last year with my friend Kyle Maurer and met him at WordCamp Dayton because he listens to my podcast. And so I talk to him every day. We have a podcast together now. We traveled together last year to Costa Rica with his wife and my family, So I picked the camps just that I want to go to anyways. I want to speak at. It was a conscious decision to kind of brand me a little bit more as a subject matter expert, I guess, was my purpose. But with the long play, I'm not looking to make a quick buck. I'm looking to help community. And at the end of the day, if someone wants to hire me, great.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk about the power.
I was going to say this, but I was fortunate that I had a day job. A lot of people, it's hard to balance. I had a day job and I had support of my wife. So,
yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Well, let's talk about let's talk a little bit about the power of podcasting. I know you from Kitchen Sink WP, and then your new one with Kyle.
The new one's called Get Options Podcast.
Get Options. So you're a prolific podcast creator. I was also aware, because I've been around the WordPress for a while, and as a somebody who lives in the country or more remote, not in urban areas, I rely a lot on podcasts to increase my knowledge in certain areas, WordPress being one of them. So Dustin's podcast a long time ago, I used to listen to about WordPress, which was great. Matt Report, there's a lot of great WordPress podcasts out there. But what's your podcast portfolio now?
So the two shows I have are Kitchen Sink WP, which I'm up to episode 169. Every Monday comes out. I have not missed a Monday yet. And Get Options podcast, we're at episode 15, also comes out on Mondays. But we've missed a 2-week stint because Kyle took a job and he had to go do some traveling. And so, Kyle works for Pippin Williamson now. So we do a weekly show there too. And I have on my board behind me, nobody can see it, but in our call here, I have ideas for 3 other shows. None of them are WordPress related. One's business focused and one is just more kind of a motivational focus, just some other interests. So
that's awesome. Well, we're going to get into your course that you're building right now and your training project, but what do you get out of podcasting? I'm sure it has some similar community building benefits, and it allows you to connect and make new friends. But why do you do it? I
find it easier to speak than I do to write, 800 words weekly. So I tell people all the time, do what makes the most sense for you. If you want to blog, then blog. If you want to make a video, do a video. If you want to podcast, do a podcast. And I've spoken about this at length at other conferences recently, this past 6-8 months. The secret to success, consistency. Whatever you're going to do it and be consistent. I've miscategorized the category in WordPress for the podcast to be picked up by the feed at iTunes. The RSS. I missed it twice in 169 episodes, and I've heard about it because people become accustomed to getting your show at a certain date and time, right? Whether they listen to it later, but some people run to my show, some people do dishes, drive traffic, who knows? But I've missed checkbox, the podcast category, and I get a tweet or a text, hey, where's the show? So it's the consistency is key. So I really enjoy doing it. And right when I think no one's listening, I get an email from somebody, which is really flattering. I have some people listening in Sri Lanka, Dubai, and I just got another one not too long ago. Was it Norway? I think it was Norway. So it's out of the blue, like, hey, we'd like your show. We're in Norway. I'm like, sweet.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
It's very cool.
And if people want to, can you say the names of them again and where people can find them?
Yeah. So if you go to kitchensinkwp.com/iTunes, you'll get to it. And if you go to Get Options Podcast /iTunes, you can also get there. You can also listen to it on the main website as well. And the Get Options show, just so people can know, it's a little bit irreverent. It's a lighter side. It's a Q&A show. People send in questions or voicemails, and we answer them. We give options, some good, some not so good. And we try to have fun with the show. We don't take it too seriously, but we do take it seriously. But the first round of options may not be the best to choose from. And we based it off of an old radio show called Click and Clack, the Car Guys, Car Talk, where people call up and say, hey, my 1979 Toyota Tercel makes a weird noise when I turn left. What do I do? And one of the brothers would say, don't turn left. So that guy, we have fun that way. And Get Options is a query in the database. Get Option. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Well, I just want to say that I think podcasting, that in general, the ship has not sailed.
Not at all.
We may be technologists here and early adopters of podcasting as a medium. When we're driving around in our car or exercising or doing the dishes or whatever, we may have our earbuds plugged in listening. But I'm envisioning a time in the future where podcasts are going to be even more accessible inside cars. Maybe they already are in certain ways, but people are going to start adopting it more. And when you go around, you want to listen to exactly what you want to listen to, not the pop charts of information.
I literally listen to about 30 hours a week of podcasts, ranging from one or two other. I listen to Dustin's show still. He's a good friend. And Dustin actually is the one who challenged me to do it. I want to do my own podcast. He's like, do it. And for about 4 months, he's like, is it done? Is it done? I'm like, no. And we have the same topics. In essence, we're going to overlap to some extent. We have the same similar style, different format of the show, but just because not everybody's going to like his voice or his take on things or mine. It's also hard to podcast about a technical topic. So my show is short. His used to be a lot longer. He shortened it up also. I think he realized I was right. My show is about 15 minutes or less, unless I interview somebody. But I share tip and tool of the week. I have a format to my show, so it's pretty basic. But I think podcasting is still here to stay and growing, by far.
That's awesome.
Still a great medium. It can be very niche. And the fact is, I have a pretty good following now, in my niche, in the niche of WordPress. I average decent numbers of downloads, but how many downloads do you have? Do you know on your show? On this show?
I honestly I have a complete fail on analytics. I've never even looked at them. But I hear people all the time who say like, "Hey, I've been listening to your podcast, or I saw you on YouTube." Like, I know it works as a way to reach people and connect. I haven't gotten into the analytics of it. I should.
Yeah, and I'm every big sponsors, so I do know my average downloads per week, and it's own steady growth. And that's the thing; nothing has zoomed me straight up, and that's fine. It's been slow and steady. And I always tell people, here's how I express podcasts to people. They say, "Hey, should I do a podcast?" I'm like, do you want to speak every week? Do you like to talk to people? In a sense, that are out there? Yes. And I say, what you need to do is you need to pick a topic that you could have. If your subject, you come up with 26 ideas, then it may not be the right. And they go, why 26? I go, that's every other week for a year. Instead of saying do 52, but 26, or even 25, they take 2 weeks off if you really want. Like, okay, but write out. So if your topic is gems, can you come up with 26 things within gemstones to talk about? If they can't, then you need to have passion behind it. I am surprised on a weekly basis that I've done 169 episodes. Every week I'm like, I'm talking about something. I have ideas all the time, but I want to speak intelligently about them and not just be too surfacey. And not all my shows, I'm honest, I've been happy with. I've only started over like 4 times in the 3 years that I've been at it, where I'm like, God, that sucked. Let me rewrite that. Let me just figure something out, reword all that. But other than that, I just let it go. Because it's not the end all. A, it's a podcast. B, it's part of the bigger picture of helping the community and, and driving traffic and getting people interested in what I do. So, but yeah, my long play is I still do it because I love doing it. So.
That's awesome. Well, let's transition into talking a little bit about your course that you've launched. What is it? What's it called?
So my current course is called WordPress Essentials. It used to be called something else, but I had to stop because of a cease and desist.
Okay.
And I used to teach in person for about 4 years. I taught it in a 5-week session at the adult school locally, and I loved it, really did. But when I went solo on my own, I was paid hourly as a district employee, technically as a teacher, as an adult school teacher. And it was great. I really liked it. It was extra money in the sense of because I had that day job, so it really didn't matter, And I gave a lot. All the students got a subdomain to work in a sandbox, and then they would take the class. You couldn't hire me in those 5 weeks, but then they would eventually come around, join my meetup, and then come around. Maybe out of, let's say, 15 students, I might get a client or 2 for some hourly work or for a small project. It was great. And it put me in the community. Again, another way to be in front of people. And I really like teaching the basics of WordPress Essentials. When I left the day job, I decided to not teach at the adult school and do it on my own. And to do it in person still, charge more. So because I had to rent a space, and I had to do all that, all my own marketing. And it didn't go so well. I tried to do 2 or 3 sessions. Originally, the class was like $84 to the adult school. I was going to charge $249, which is still a pretty good deal in my opinion. And then when I had 3 people sign up, it's not enough to pay for the rent of the space. So I waited a few months, did it again at $199, still not enough. And I did it one more time, 2 or 3 people. So I had to refund people. I lost money on all 3 tries because I had to. The refund, PayPal they kind of messed it up. So I lost probably $50 on all that. And then I decided to transition it and make it online as a live webinar class, and it's doing better.
So let's talk about that. Why not create a WordPress Essentials video course? Why do the webinar, like the live option?
Okay, so I'll tell you why. Because my friend Corey over at A2 Hosting, he and we talk all the time, and he's really smart, and he's in marketing, and sometimes you just don't. It's almost like a married couple. I wasn't hearing what he was saying. I was thinking what you were thinking, as far as put together a video, make it dripped out, or a 4-week start and stop. Just what's the best way to go? How much do I charge? The indecision was killing me as well. So Corey kept saying, just do it online, do it online. I'm like, okay, and I have to go make the videos, record them, edit them, install it. And I've used Lifter, and I've tested it a few times. I've done review on my show a couple times, and as well as some other competitors. And then I go, which platform do I use? Because I'm friends with everybody who makes these platforms, and I'm still torn, to tell you the truth. It's kind of funny. So Corey was saying, I just wasn't hearing that. He's like, no, take what you have. Don't look at the videos right now. You have people who want your class. Take it, make it shorter, make it 3 weeks, drop the price to $99 and do it as a live webinar. I'm like, oh, like do it live. And I didn't even think about that. I'm like, okay. So I created a quick splash page, did it, and I had, 5 signups within the first day. So there was something there.
Yeah.
And because I bought into Webinar Ninja like a year ago through a special, I got it for $50 lifetime. So now it's like $45 a month. So it's like, okay, figured it out. Got students. I did a first run 4 weeks ago coming up. So I had 10 students. It was great. There are problems, in my opinion, with it, doing it this way. It's great because it's live. People pay for it. You get the recordings versus in my class, you didn't get a recording. If you missed a class, you missed a class. Here, if you miss it, if you leave early, you still get the recording. The problem is the feedback loop. I really like this. You and I right now can see each other and hear each other. And in person, you have that dynamic in a classroom setting. People have questions. In the Webinar Ninja way, there's a chat room. I can see the chat window, but I can't hear you. So, I'm not sure. It's I can't sense certain things. So there's that aspect on the feedback loop, which I don't like, but it is what it is. And then down the line, I'm still launching, and I still have to acquire new students every time I want to do this. And if you can't take a class online when I offer it, I lose a sale, right? So I will probably transition this a bit to doing a standardized course video set, using an LMS. So it might be cheaper. You just take it, you get the videos, you're on your own. If you want access to me and or the subdomain and some more one-on-one or a group call every week, then it costs more. I'll do different tiers, that kind of thing. So,
well, let me ask you, how many, for the $99 3-week course, how many webinars is it and how long are they?
Oh, so it's 3 webinars.
Okay.
So it's 3 lives on Wednesdays, 10 a.m. Pacific to noon, 2 hours. Up to 2 hours. And that's the 2 hours is twofold. One, that's really all people can really take, in my opinion. And 2, it's also the limitation of Webinar Ninja. So it worked out really well. So
what's the learning objective? Like in your 3-week WordPress Essentials course, what are they trying? What's the benchmark of success?
I think having a really comfort level with the back end of WordPress, the dashboard, all the settings, how to add a post, a page, a theme, a plugin, make some customizations, nothing to do with code, no CSS, no PHP, none of that whatsoever. It's really essentials. It's basics. And I also do a ton of best practices, linking to other things, video concepts, like not uploading videos to your actual shared hosting, using the services that do that. So I go over that breadth of, here's what I've learned in the I've been doing this. Even though hosts say it's unlimited bandwidth, it's really not. You put up a video that gets a lot of plays, they're going to shut you down because that's not what they want on shared hosting. So I go over a lot of best practices, a lot of, how else do I want to word it? Just information things and resources as well. Where to find themes, the difference between premium, freemium model as well. So, and then and the e-commerce comes up all the time. People say, hey, you're going to teach a second version of this or an advanced course. But once you say advanced, it means 10 things to 10 different people, 10 different things, to 10 different people. Because what's advanced to you might be theme development or plugin development or e-commerce or a gallery. It just depends, right? Or social media or analytics. So the most popular is really e-commerce. And I'm planning on doing an e-commerce course. But again, I'm thinking about doing a low cost of entry, in person, 3 hours WooCommerce course, and then maybe convert that to an online as well. I don't know. It's tough. I'm torn. I'm not sure. You tell me what's better to go. How should I go about this, Chris?
Well, I'm still in the information gathering phase.
Yeah.
But I want to say that I really commend you on what you're doing, because what I would call that in the world we operate in with the launching an online course business, one of the things we recommend is to pilot a course. And you're doing textbook piloting. You're doing it in person. You're trying to validate. You're doing it live with this robust, you don't have a great feedback loop, which we'll talk about in a second because of the limitations of Webinar Ninja and just the format there. But you're doing that, and really when you do that, then you figure out and you get all those questions back and forth, like what people actually want, what's really working well, what's not working well, what's missing. And then then you really earn the right in some ways to make not earn the right, but confidently launch a more passive course with the confidence that it has what it needs to give people that learning outcome. And you can still, like, even before you go like fully passive, and maybe you never will, and that's great. You can still have a passive course with like a weekly Ask Me Anything office hour thing, and then you still have that feedback loop, and you can charge more for your course because you have that personalized medium available. And just
the other side.
Go ahead.
I mean, I could take it away from Webinar Ninja. I could put it here on Zoom, and then there's that feedback loop. I could share my screen. There's other services. It's just that what I'm using works because of the registration format. Because that Ninja has automatic reminders of, hey, this is coming up. Those little things are there. They're in place. Like anything else. There's no perfect solution. They're just what works for you right now. And I know of a guy who charges for a lot of money for a class, like $2,000 for podcasting. Does really well, but his is a 4-week class, and it starts and stops. And a lot of people, they start the class and they stop it on purpose. They open enroll, they close enrollment, and it starts. And you can ask any questions you want in that 4 weeks. And everyone's along the same ride. Whether or not they hit their show on the air, whether or not you get your site launched, you can only do so much. But that way, you need to make changes for the next round, you can, because WordPress changes. We're at 4.75, came out yesterday. By the time, who knows, maybe something changes in 4.8 that we need to update the videos for. And to have a passive video, to me, the issue is, what if something is totally different or wrong? I have to go fix it. I don't know. It's a personal thing that I probably need to get over to some extent. And then also the questions. You're right. If it's lower cost and passive and here's all the content, you're on your own, great. If you want more help and guided help or a subdomain and a sandbox to test it, that costs more because I have to set that up, So there's pros and cons to all of it, right? So
absolutely. And I think that shows a lot of just keen thought into what's going on, like, and how WordPress changes. Like, for example, about 4 years ago, maybe longer, I created my first WordPress course. I put it on Udemy. I never updated it. And recently, Udemy actually took it down. I'm not sure why. It might have been because it was outdated or something. There's a lot of issues going on with Udemy. But like, I didn't keep it updated. I moved on to other things, and a lot of people like got a lot of value. I got up to like 10,000 people in that course. Wow. But I didn't make that commitment to stay with it. And a software like WordPress, I mean, the interface looks different. It's changed so much. It's not, it was a good piece of content at the time, but it's kind of run its shelf life. And I think that I like to invert or take the opposite approach sometimes on the passive income, make something that's evergreen, make money while you sleep concept, that, doing, I'm actually not a big fan of lifetime access because, I like the cohort approach. And to travel with a group of students and build a learning community that's like everybody's at the same place. That's a really cool way to approach it. And really
here's
valuable.
The question, though, for yourself and for people listening. How do you balance the fact that, look, I have to I'm launching every 3 weeks a new session versus, and that's a hard way to show consistent income. It's going to vary because I don't know. I'm not at a point yet where, yes, I have a following. Yes, it's growing. Like this next set of classes, the students I have, I don't know anybody in this next set. The first set, I knew almost everybody. It was weird. Some people took the class again. They wanted a refresher. Some people were referrals based on the meetups in the community. They were supporting me, which is great. This next set of 15 students right now, I don't know any of them, which is pretty cool. Some are far. I think one back in, Rhode Island. I think they signed up this morning. I think it was Rhode Island. But I'm almost tempted on have an offering of a membership site, because a membership site is value as well. As long as you're adding content and answering questions or making a forum, then people are paying 10, 15, 20 bucks a month, right? And you know what that value is. Every month you can see it. And you can have some churn and some attrition, right? But that concept idea from a business perspective better, but from a perspective of, I guess it goes back now, we didn't even touch on that whole imposter syndrome. Like, well, people are going to pay to be in my membership course? I don't know.
I think they will. I mean, they already are. And
Yeah.
I mean, to me, $99 with direct access live calls actually sounds a little on the cheaper side.
Yeah.
But like pricing is a big thing. So if you want to get into recurring monthly revenue, which you definitely want as an entrepreneur and a person who has bills to pay, you can do that, but you have to provide recurring value. So
right.
But having I love positioning things where, okay, here's the lower end offer, here's the higher end offer, and here's, so that you can meet the market wherever they are. Right. So for like somebody who just wants to dip their toes in the water, maybe the membership is a good idea, but they don't get any live access. Or maybe that's a place where past people who went through the webinar series could just keep as long as it was useful to stay up to speed and stay current and reference like, oh, let me go back to that lesson about this, or maybe Adam's updated the video on this because the user screen looks different or something like that.
Yeah.
And you do it all. I mean, you have a podcast, you have community, you have concierge WP where you provide service, and then you have education. So as long as you're surrounding your the same customer, just at different stages or kind of the same community, there's no reason not to have all these different offers and figure out what works.
Right. And I made the decision, I think it was 9 months ago. No, not quite, about 7 months ago, about a month or two after I left the day job, on the branding of what I was doing. Because if I was talking to somebody at a conference, I had a business call with me for kitchen sink, but they were asking me about maintenance and updates and or development. I'd give them a kitchen sink card. I go, but email me here. It's confusing. And my parent company name was Silver Lining Productions. That's my old DBA, my LLC. It was very confusing, so I made the conscious decision to say, okay, these are the two brands. This is how I divvy it up. Some of my billing may come from an SLP account because of my taxes and stuff. And clients don't care about that. That's fine. He's like, I use FreshBooks. It's not a big deal. But now I'm very clear that concierge WP is development, maintenance, that type of work for money. Nothing is there given away at the moment. No blog even. Actually, that site's going to get updated as well. It's missing some information. Kitchen Sink is all about community, education. And I teach a class under that brand. Or classes will be under that brand for money. So yeah, but you're right. It's a matter of I like to be involved in all three of those things, the podcast. And then the podcast helps spread the word as well. I could see the podcast could go under the brand of concierge. It could I could change, but at this point, why?
That's awesome. Well, you can also, like, in terms of monthly revenue, you can systematize your marketing so that if you knew, even though it's cohort based and like it's not feast or famine, got to go round up like 9, 10, 15 new students, maybe you can figure out some kind of advertising model, whether that's content based or paid or whatever, that works for you, that's really dependable, so that you can kind of confidently know next month there's going to be another crew and it's going to be okay. Or maybe you work on the issue of like, well, how do I scale it up so that I can still provide the same level of service to like 50 students at a time? Focus on it in different ways.
That's an issue on the webinar Ninja stuff. I can have up to 100 in the class, but I wouldn't be able to handle 100 students with Q&A. There's no way. I think 20, 25 would be the cap. I mean, right now it's open. If I had if I had that many, I would probably just have a second session. I would just do, I don't know, I'd figure it out.
Or you could hire.
Problem to have.
Yeah, or you could hire.
Have somebody else monitor the room, the chat, and obviously say, look, I can't answer everyone's question. We'll get back to you. And I put it, because every class gets its own class website, and every student gets their own sites. On the class website would go, all the Q&A would go there. I would just take the next day and do that. And it'd be great. I have no problem doing that. So I've not limited how many students I take at the moment because I don't have that bridge to cross just yet. So I wish.
Yeah. Well, one of the other things. One of the other
I was
things
going
I
to
just
say,
want to acknowledge about your platform is the extreme focus on the beginner. Uh,
mm-hmm.
a lot of us get into this like techno babble, like we get like too far away from the beginner. And you're not talking about becoming a programmer or developer or a high-end graphic designer. You're talking about a WordPress implementer, which is to this day all that I am. I
Yeah.
make a WordPress software product. I have developers on my team. I have designers on my team. But at the end of the day, my relationship with WordPress is as an implementer. So I'm a lot more like the users of my product
Right.
than people who build the product or whatever, which allows us to it helps stay in touch with the needs of the regular WordPress implementer, which you can still do an incredible amount with.
These days, a lot more can be done with just that knowledge. I have a friend of mine, Serena. She is a fan. I don't know. I met her through WordCamp, LA, or the Meetup. And she tries to pitch me all over town, to General Assembly, to different places to teach and speak. And I told her one day, I said, Serena, I'm not the best developer or designer. She goes, no, I know. I'm like, what? She says, no, there are better designers and better developers. But you're a really good teacher. And you can break down both those concepts to what people understand. And you're funny. So I'm like, thanks. So I have that shtick. You know that. And, but I do pretty good job at that. That's my thing. I like helping the people that are starting out, and I get it, because I think if you're a pure developer, you might be just too smart for the room. If you're a pure designer, you might be too ethereal, too much based on white space versus dark space versus font and layout. And again, people need a solution. They need to know the basics of WordPress. And yes, there's tons of videos out there on YouTube, on Udemy, and for free. But people keep coming to me because I've done most of that research already, I guess. And I keep doing it. I like doing it. So some people still want that shortcut. And that shortcut is finding a resource, right? And if they're paying $99, early, like when I do early registration, it's $79. But for $100 to get 3 weeks worth of content, it's 6 hours of content, it's still a pretty good deal. So that's the thing, people they don't know who to trust. They don't know who to go to.
Yeah. And I just want to highlight that point. And it's not just in the technology space. You could be in the health and fitness space. You could be doing cooking. You could be doing cooking courses or weightlifting or train for your first marathon, or you could do language learning, all kinds of courses. Nothing frustrates a beginner like not having somebody who's funny, who's not too ethereal and not too advanced that they can't relate, trying to teach them the material. So I just want to highlight that point and just acknowledge that, like how powerful that is. And oftentimes from an economic standpoint, the beginner's market in a lot of niches is quite massive. So, once you figure it out.
And there's plenty of space for other people to do the same thing. I mean, that's why you have the old joke is you have gas stations on four corners. Yeah. Because people go in different directions. People different places of learning. So just because I have a show about podcasts, Dustin has a show. So my show has been around for 3 years. Dustin's like 6 on the podcasting aspect and education and whatnot. There used to be 3 or 4 more. Those are gone. 7 more have replaced those now. So now there's a whole bunch of WordPress shows. Okay, that's great because we all have different voices, different takes on things, right? Anything goes with learning, and same thing goes with styles and location of the content, like how are you implementing it, and just the experience of doing it. So my experience is this, and now I do this, and I've changed my opinion on X or Y. I used to be a firm believer of a certain theme. I am no longer using that theme. I changed. I never saw the change coming. I did not see it happening, but that company went under, kind of, so I changed with the times, and I'm honest about it. That's the thing also. I'm not out to say, take my class and learn how to make $1 million using WordPress. Nope, not my fault. I'm here, take my class or join my meetup, learn what you need when you need to know it. So it's at time learning, and ask questions. And if I can help, great. I'm probably the least. I'm my. How do I word it? I'm not the best at selling my own self, I guess. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Well, the best selling is just a great experience, a great product, people who get results after taking your product. Right. That's the best form of selling. So
exactly.
Well, Adam, I want to thank you for coming on the show and honor you for all that you've done for the WordPress community and just all that you're up to. And thank you for sharing your personal story with us.
My pleasure.
If people want to find you, what are the best places to go again?
kitchensinkwp.com is one place, and that's where I share the weekly podcast. And the other place really is be Twitter. I have a Kitchen Sink account there as well, Kitchen Sink WP on Twitter, or Hey Adam Silver. I'm a big fan of Twitter. I'm on Facebook, but Twitter is easier to get a hold of me there. So
awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the show, and we'll have to do one in another year or something and see how the teaching has evolved and do it again. So thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chris.